What is happening? Welcome back. It's time for the Tuesday training. And I'm super excited about this episode because I get to bring on a good buddy of mine that I've been following around. I see him. He's one of the road warriors out there. So I see him at all these different events, hanging out, doing his thing. He's a master of sales, great speaker. We're going to get him on in a little bit, Mr. Matt Murray. But before, a little bit of news as always, I like to talk about some stuff that's relevant out there. And I saw an interesting article from eHealth that I want to share with you guys real quick. Check this out. eHealth says Medicare beneficiaries are satisfied with coverage, but they worry about cost and, well, they feel unheard by their political leaders. I think I can relate with them on that one there, but it says that basically 88% of beneficiaries are actually satisfied with their Medicare plan. However, 75% of them worry about out-of-pocket cost, 43% worry about premiums, and further on that Medicare policymakers, well, they need to be more responsive to the needs of beneficiaries. Can't say I disagree at all. It goes on with a few little highlights here to help you understand where some of these worries are coming from. But it says many fear that new costs are going to emerge with the end of the COVID emergency. As you know, the pandemic, right, the national emergency ends April 1st, which is also when they're going to be kicking all those people off of Medicaid, something like, I think, 11 to 15 million people. But it basically says that 62% of people are worried about increased out-of-pocket cost for COVID-related care when the federal emergency declaration ends. Probably true. Goes on to say that concerns for the future differ by income. Yeah, of course they do. That seems to be pretty obvious, but basically lack of access to prescription drugs that they need is a top concern for even the most affluent beneficiaries, while lower income beneficiaries worry more just about the benefits being reduced or maybe just unable to pay for Medicare. Or medical care, it says. But annual cover reviews are important, and awareness of these opportunities is actually low. 95% of beneficiaries say it's important to review their coverage options at least once a year, but only 10% of Medicare Advantage enrollees are actually aware of the Medicare Advantage enrollment period currently underway, which obviously they're talking about open enrollment period. So interesting article there. In other news that wasn't published, eHealth did an internal investigation on any wrongdoing for TPMO requirements, and they found no wrongdoing. But moving on, here's another good article. You've probably seen this one. This is, Medicare rejects Alzheimer's Association request for unrestricted coverage of treatments like Leqembi. There's basically another Alzheimer's drug that's getting the shaft out there. You've probably heard about Aduhelm a couple of years ago. Super, super expensive, something like $20,000 to $30,000 a year. That one barely got approved, but then Medicare's not covering it except for under certain trials, right? So they're not giving a broad range of opportunities for some of these people that, well, they may want those prescriptions. And they've now done it to another drug called Leqembi, which comes in at a price tag around $26,000 a year. But basically, CMS is rejecting a request from the Alzheimer's Association for unrestricted coverage of antibody treatments that target brain plaque, right? And of course, Alzheimer's Association says that they are appalled, and CMS again says that they need more evidence demonstrating that treatments like Leqembi are reasonable and necessary. And they furthered that to say, hey, we'll give it broader coverage on the same day it's approved, because the truth is, and this is where the argument lies, this Leqembi drug, while it was fast-tracked for FDA approval originally, it's not done with the standard approval process, and that's the only one that Medicare abides by. So once a drug has gone through the standard, more lengthy approval process for drugs under the FDA, that's when they'll start to consider offering coverage for it. This one's only been fast-tracked. While the drug maker, of course, says it's good, they say 27% of people, which if you read further in this article, have shown reduced brain swelling as well as slowed cognitive decline. So they feel it's working. It's been fast-tracked by the FDA, but it's not gone through approval. So yet they are not offering coverage for it. So again, people with Alzheimer's are struggling, not only because they can't get the best treatments out there because they're restricted through the Medicare or federal government, but then more importantly, they're just darn expensive. So there's got to be a way we can fix that. So those are the couple of the news items I found out there that were current. If we go on, we can certainly look through any of the Medicare news that's out there, and you'll see that all the lawmakers are basically using Medicare as their whipping boys, so to speak, or certainly their arguing point to argue on who's going to win this election. And that's why I really appreciate that eHealth article saying that, that policymakers they're not paying too much attention to the actual beneficiary, and that's how they feel. But enough of that. Let's get on with the show. I want to get this dude on the screen. If you haven't had a chance to spend time with him, meet him, share some space with him, I highly encourage you to go out of your way when you see Matt Murray in an event. The dude is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to sales, marketing, lead generation, and so forth. And today we're going to bring him on. And this is a perfect topic with all of the different TPO requirements that came out last year and the new ones that are proposed for next year. So we're going to talk about keeping your marketing compliant. What is up, my friend Matt Murray?
Tony Merwin, Matthew Murray. How are my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It is good to see you. It's good to see you. I love the backdrop.
I appreciate it. If you saw what was in front of me, you'd be a little scared. There's about $15,000 worth of equipment. Just make me sure I don't look as white as I normally do.
Well, you look great as always. You doing great? You feeling great?
I'm feeling fantastic. I did 75 hard during open enrollment last year, which was the hardest thing. I lost about 30 pounds. I think I packed on a few because when you have so many, you want to keep it back, I guess. So added a few pounds back, but I feel fantastic. So
awesome,
feeling really good.
What was what was your hardest part of 75 hard?
About 30 days in, I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. That makes sense. You do something for 30 days, and you don't see anything on yourself.
Okay.
You see yourself every single day. It's really hard to see that improvement. But part of the deal is you take a picture every single day. So my friend said, "Do you have all your pictures?" And I said, "Of course. I'm following the thing to a T." He said, "Take the picture of today and take the picture of the first day." And when I saw those two, I was like, "Holy crap! It is working."
Nice.
Right. So sometimes we do things on a day-to-day basis that our mentor has told us to do in business, and it doesn't feel like we're getting anything done. But if you keep your head down and you just do something for 30, 45, 75 days and you look up, you'll have more money in your bank account. You'll feel a lot better. You'll lose a ton of weight. Something will happen in your life. You just got to keep your head down and keep going forward.
Love it. Love it. That's a great lesson because you're talking about incremental improvement, right? We don't always see that incremental improvement each day, but if we can take a moment to go, wait a second, 30 days ago, that's where we were. Now we're here. So things are going well. Good stuff, man. I love it. I love it. So you have done quite a bit in this industry. So I just wanted to take a moment to make sure that everybody understands who you are, because I've known you at least virtually for probably about 4 to 5 years now, maybe a touch longer. And then we met face to face at, I believe it was the 2019 8% Nation, if I remember correct. Might have been the 2020, but it was one of those two. We both had a booth out there and we're hanging out. But take a little short moment, just let everybody know who Matt Murray is and what you've been doing for the last several years in insurance.
Well, sure. I've been very blessed to be in insurance for I'm coming up on 8 years now, and I think it was the 2019. Was that the first one, or was it 2018? I'm not sure.
It definitely wasn't the first one. It wasn't the first one that we met.
Then it would have been the 2019 one. That's when we first met. But I've been blessed to be doing this insurance thing for over 7 years. I ask anybody to find me an unhappy insurance agent after 5 years in the business, because you can't find one, because rules are awesome. And so, some of the things that I've done, I'm a final expense nut at first. It was very simple to me that if you say no to all these health questions, you give me a $50 check, I'm going to get you $10,000 in coverage. It was an easy sell to me. I built a couple teams, personally produced, doing about $275,000, $300,000 a year. Built a team that was doing $300,000, $400,000 a month. Went on to the carrier side, worked for the insurance carrier. So got to see a whole nother side of the business. Right. And then I went back to independent and ended up working with these guys who are behind me, Innovative Financial Group, and took over as their lead guy. Because when 2020 happened, right? COVID, you were just talking about COVID before, direct mail rate started to go down. That plus the election, they went way down. Well, I said, well, I know how to do Facebook leads, but I don't want to be the lead guy.
Oh, when you said, I thought you were the lead guy.
No,
like numero uno, like you're in charge of the whole thing.
I'm closing in. I'm kidding.
No, you're the guy in charge of leads.
I am the in charge of the leads for Innovative Financial Group, more specifically on the digital side, because that's where I started. When I saw direct mail leads were costing me $32 when I was at my first company, it was around 2015, 2016. I started making my own Facebook leads. And the way I did it was I took a picture of a My Final Wishes book. It was the most horrible ad of all time. This is before Zapier, before any of those things. I had to download the spreadsheet and read it. It was awful. But what I started doing is my whole pitch on insurance during those times is I'd sit down with the client. I'd go, all right, Miss Jones, I understand that you're going to buy insurance from me because why in the world would I be here? You
Right.
filled out something online. I'm here now. You're going to buy insurance. What I want to talk about is why you filled this out. I want to know what went on in your brain to make you fill this out. Was it the picture? Was it the first portion? Was it the headline? What stuck out about this that made you want to buy insurance from me today? And I got really good about getting into the mind of a senior citizen, and it worked.
And why people respond. It is interesting of why people will respond to certain ads, right? Direct mail campaigns, digital ad, whatever it is, whatever the graphic or the visual is, billboards, I mean, TV commercials, but print, because I worked in print for years too. So it always amazed me, like, why does one print ad with the exact same language work versus another one with the exact same words, right? Just there's a different graphic, the way they're arranged, whatever it is. There's little interesting details where it falls on the page sometimes. You know, it's those are interesting. They're kind of geeky, granular details, but if you really want your ads to pop, if you want to get the return that you need, those are excellent points.
The color of the postcard, the color of the envelope.
Yeah.
One trick I used to use was instead of one stamp that cost me, 25 cents or whatever it was, I put 7 of them, but all over. So it looked like I was a child trying to send a letter to grandma, but they'd all open it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it got a lot of responses. So just doing little different things gets people to respond to certain types of marketing. However, and this may sound crazy, some of those things you can't do because of CMS. More importantly, when it comes into the Medicare world, you definitely cannot do it because they say you cannot do it.
100%. There are numerous things we cannot do. And that's
How-
definitely what we're going to talk about.
Can you
Before we get
tell how
there,
long I've been doing in the showbiz? I'm good at the transitional part, right?
Yes. Before we get there, I have one interesting question just to edify you a little bit more, make sure everybody understands why you're the authority on this subject. How many leads do you generate and or manage on, let's just say, a weekly basis through IFG?
I will give you a better stat, a cooler stat, because
Okay.
the amount of leads is, I really couldn't even give you that number, but anywhere between $7 to $10 million budget per year on the digital side. Probably another, or direct mail house probably does another $8 to $10 million, so around $15 to $20 million in marketing budget, just
For the lead guy.
Just for the lead guy.
Nice.
So the
So
number of leads is kind of hard.
Right. That's a shit ton of leads. I'll be honest with you. So what are some of the things that we can't do that you think agents are either surprised by or they're still doing and that's not getting caught?
I'll give you the perfect example. You cannot say, this is important. I'm gonna look directly on the camera. You cannot say if you qualify, you may receive a 147 or 164.90 back into your Social Security check. You cannot say that. You know why? Because that is not a fact.
Correct. It's not.
The amounts vary per person.
Correct.
Okay. So you
per
can't
person, per income, per resource level. There's a whole set of variables and state
and county. There's so many different things. So it's false advertising when you say, if you qualify, you're going to receive this. If you qualify, you're going to receive this amount in a food card. That is incorrect. Those are false. You cannot say those things, right? What you can say though is 2 facts, right? One of the fact is, if you qualify, you could receive a full or partial Part B premium reduction, period. Important part is the period. That's a fact, right? The full Part B premium reduction is $164.90. That is another fact. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes 100% of sense.
So I had to wordsmith the crap out of that, because when everybody else ran away from CMS because of everything going down,
Correct.
after the 2021, it was like CMS was like coming after. It felt like they were coming after everybody,
Sure.
right? And so a lot of people ran away from, and we decided to run directly to CMS. And so here's everything that we're currently doing. Please make us unhappy, and we're going to fix everything. And so we had to get approved by HP, basically just CMS.
Yep.
You had to get sponsored by an insurance carrier. Ours was Humana, and we also went through UHC as well, because those are the most strenuous of the two. Then we would take all of our marketing, get it approved by the carrier first, go through that back and forth, back and forth. Once it's approved by there, log on to HPMS, get it approved through there. They're going to go back to the carrier and go, did you approve this? Then it's finally approved.
How long does that process usually take?
Well, the first time we did it, it took us a year. It took us like 7 months to even get approved to do anything, because there is some red tape,
Sure.
right? And it's not that tough, but it's about people's Medicare and their benefits, so it has to be done correctly. There's you have to be the sponsoring entity, right? Another thing that you shouldn't be doing and you can't do is what they really don't like. And we're going to get back to what I was just saying. What they really don't like is when people hide behind the entity that they are. Why don't postcards say Innovative Financial Group? Why don't they say, our good friends Bobby Brock Insurance? Why don't they say the Syndicate Insurance Group? Or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I follow you 100%.
They hide behind Senior Benefits Agency, and they hide behind.
Well, the easy answer is the returns are usually lower.
Exactly. The returns are usually lower. However, they don't want you to do that. You have to put on there who it's going to be going to. And this year, from what I'm understanding and learning so far, is the one that it's returned by has to be the one contacting that client.
Correct. Now, this is next year's stuff that they're talking about.
You got it.
This isn't the stuff that's currently enforced. This is you're ahead of the curve than most people. So good. I'm glad that we're on this track, because yes, these are the things that they're talking about next year.
Correct.
Right? That if I do send a piece of direct mail, it has to have my brand on it. And I'm the only people that can ever call that agent. I can't generate leads and resell them.
You got it.
What do you think that means for direct mail lead vendors?
They're gonna have to get really creative, and they'll probably be okay. What's going to be happening is they're going to charge an extra fee for a setup fee to put your brand on their piece of mail.
On the mail, right? They've already got CMS approved from the language side.
You got it. That's exactly what's going to happen. So they'll end up making a little bit more as a administrative fee to put your brand on there. It's going to take my team $5,000 to put your logo and all that stuff. It's not, but good for them. And then everything else is approved on the language side. The only thing that's going to be changing is the name, and then we're going to send out that piece of mail for your agency. And what that'll further do for that agency, well, I'll wave at her. She's back there. Hello. What that'll do for that agency is they'll be further locked into that lead vendor company, because they don't have to go through that every single time.
Oh, exactly.
So it actually end up helping the lead vendors.
That's a good point.
If they watch this today, and hopefully they are, they'll make a lot of money. But if not, they may have no idea how to navigate that.
So does that same thing carry over then to Facebook, I assume? Or you believe it will, obviously, right? If you're running an ad on Facebook, you won't be able to hide.
People can't hide. The problem is similar to the recordings, right? Is who in the heck, how many people did they hire over at CMS to listen to all these recordings?
Oh, they did. They put that onus on the carrier to deal with.
Correct.
Those recordings aren't going to CMS. If you have a complaint from a human, because this has already happened to one of my agents. If you get a complaint from, let's just say Humana, one of your Humana enrollees, they call Humana and file a complaint against you for whatever reason that they want to deem as necessary. Humana's going to come back and ask you for the recordings. Humana's the only people listening to those recordings. They're not kicking those up to CMS. Yes. CMS put all the onus on the carrier, which should tell you right there. And I'm not one that tries to tell people to color outside the lines, but that should tell you right there that the carriers aren't going to go out of their way and just like, hey, can I listen to some of your random recordings?
Yes.
They got too much stuff to do already.
So I work closely with our compliance department here, like when complaints come in. So when a client goes to the doctor and you got them into a new Humana plan, and they were in UHC, and they go to that doctor that they've been going to for 15 years, and they go, "Hey, this we don't take Humana, we only take the UHC. What do you think is going to happen?" That person's going to try to call the agent first. The agent doesn't pick up
Hopefully.
because we're busy, right? Hopefully, yes. But then they're going to call the carrier on the back of the card. And when they call Humana, the Humana, just so you know, or all these carriers, go, okay, sorry about hear that. Like, would you like to complain? That's what they're told to say. What do you think the client's going to say?
Yeah.
Of course, I'd like to complain. So when that happens, they can't just sweep it under the rug and say, oh yeah, you can complain, and they just throw it in a little
Right.
drawer
No,
over
they got to
here.
get it documented now.
They have to actually go to the agent and say, can you show us the marketing piece that you had? Can you show it? Can you give us the recording or recordings? Can you show us the scope of appointment, et cetera, et cetera?
Yep.
And then there might be disciplinary action, blah, blah, blah. But what happens is sometimes the agent, and I learned this one from you, I think it was around 4 a.m. when I woke up from the cocaine or something, like something crazy like that. You know what I mean? Like they're telling all these crazy things that happen. It's like
Right.
the carrier doesn't want you to give out too much information.
No,
They're
they just
doing
want
it.
simple statements.
They want the simple statements. Just give us this. Please just give us this.
Correct.
And most people don't know that. So if you do get a
Correct.
complaint, don't freak out. Do not freak out, because if you were taught correctly, and you probably were, a lot of uplines are teaching you to do the right things. As long as you're following the proper procedures, doing the scope of appointments, doing the recordings the best way you know how, and all that stuff, you're going to be totally fine. But don't wait until the very last minute to try to get all that stuff ready. When you get something, just get it in, get what they need, and move on with your life. The
Yep.
other trick that I found is I'm terribly sorry, WellCare. The the hour recording that we had can only be sent in 7-second increments. So here's 400 files for you to listen to. And by the way, I don't know what order they're in. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? So
That's
after
brutal.
that,
That would be brutal.
that's don't do
So
that.
I asked about hiding, right? I said, what about Facebook ads, right? So let's
Mhm.
say we're saying on the direct mail piece, your brand has to be printed on it.
Mhm.
So I would assume on your Facebook ad, your brand has to be
Yes, it
shown.
has. Yes,
Now, do you get around that if you're using your authentic Facebook business page?
so let me give you another tip. Innovative Financial Group doesn't really scream, I'd like to talk to you about your Medicare, right?
Sure.
But we have a licensed entity that is basically IFG, that is branded around Medicare. Does
Sure.
that make sense?
Yep.
And that is what is shown on the direct mail piece. That is what's shown on the Facebook side and everything.
Well, do you understand where I'm going with this? Because and this is a kind of a two-part thing, because you might have your exact business name as your Facebook page.
Yes.
And if your advertising is that, when that ad shows up, it says sponsored and it has the actual company name.
100%.
Right. So does that prevent you from having to have it stamped on the ad graphic? And then more importantly, what about those that use fake Facebook business pages?
Again, they're going to get in
Like they
trouble.
use a clever name instead of their brand, and then they just have an, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, trust me, I know what you're talking about, and I'll tell everybody this, because I've been tired of people. Best way to explain this. I'm tired of people ripping off other people's ads and then pretending that they're all of a sudden a lead vendor, and they're doing the same exact thing. So I'm going to give everybody a tip right now. Go to Facebook ad library. Okay. Don't type in the keywords. This is important. Don't type in the keywords. What I want you to go is I've done this a million times. Go to the top right. You're going to see ad library report. When you click that button, it takes 3 seconds to 5 seconds, depending on where you're at in the world, because you got slow internet. Go all the way to the bottom. It's going to say download report. You can download all of the ads. You can download every person that is advertising in an Excel document. And you'll have 300 things to pull from. And then all you have to do is Control F and find
Keyword.
the one that you want. and then go back in and type that exact name inside of the Facebook ad library, and you can see all of it. Okay.
Interesting.
And you can see exactly what not to do.
Okay.
You can see exactly what not to do. And it's pretty sad to see that. And I'm very close to teaching CMS how to do those things, because if they did, they'd be people be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But then the route becomes, okay, who is this ad actually? So I'll have to go make myself a 64-year-old man on Facebook, wait around a little bit, interact with some stuff, and all of a sudden I start seeing the ads. But then you can go to when you're filling out that form, you go to our privacy policy.
Mm-hmm.
You keep going, and you would be surprised of some of these publicly traded companies what their ads look like.
Interesting.
So I spend a lot of time diving deep into other people's ads, and it's pretty sad. So yes, the people they're running, shell.
Shell Facebook pages is basically what they're saying, right? It's a shell business page.
Yes.
And some of them are clever. Like they would do like Hispanics in Texas is the name of the page, and they'll run like an Hispanic Medicare ad or something like that. Not me. I just found it. I thought it was clever.
It is. No, actually, Tony, I believe I reached out to you. Your ads are really good.
Well, I don't run enough of them. I'm getting better. We're about to launch a whole wave of them right now. We've gone in and retooled everything. So you'll go back and look at them again. You'll see some new shit we're doing.
The ones that I saw were really good. I think I reached out to you.
Like, hey, you did. Really good. You did. You complimented me on it. Thank you.
Real recognizes real, and you're doing it right. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that.
But this is the importance of doing it the proper way and being compliant in your marketing. Is you might be able to go get, by copying pasting somebody's ad, you might be able to go get a $5 or $6 or $7 lead. Great. But let's say that you have 400 clients in the books, 500 clients in the books. What does that pay you in renewals? I'm not really that good at math. 150, something like that.
125 to 150.
125 to 150, depending on what levels you're on. And it took you 3 years to get there, or 4 years to get there. In the last year, you put on 150 clients because all of a sudden you figured out this new marketing trick of going and getting a shell Facebook page, and you did it. And then you get a complaint or 2 complaints or 3 complaints, and it becomes founded from the carrier. Guess what happens to all those renewals that you've worked for?
They take them. They'll terminate you, terminate your renewals, the whole bit.
All of it.
Yep.
So is it worth it?
Not in my opinion.
I don't think so. I swan or sleep well at night knowing that anybody that uses our marketing, that anytime they have a complaint, I can show them the marketing piece. I can give them the marketing piece, and I have no worry that is going to be compliant. That's basically the best I can say it is. It's your renewals. Everything that you're working for, all the dreams that you've thought about, the financial freedom, the getting the 400 client mark, the 800 client mark, building that block of business. You see something online, you copy a Facebook ad, you do it for a little bit, and it's working, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't worth it. You've lost everything that you've worked so hard for.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah, agreed. I've been doing this 18 years. It's amazing to me the shenanigans that some agents will go to make a fast buck. Mm-hmm. Instead of being like, you know what, let me just work the business the right way. It's going to take me a little longer, but the dollars that I build are going to stay with me versus getting taken away from me or risk getting taken away from me. I've seen everything. And, I've seen people falsify phone interviews where this guy was he was clean sheeting final expense apps in a nursing home, for example.
Ugh.
Right. And then he would have his girlfriend record the phone interview with Forrester's later, and she would fake all these different voices. And then after he had a few policies and Forrester started investigating, they called me one day and they're like, hey, can we play a couple of recordings for you? We want to get your opinion. I'm like, sure, I'm listening. And it was the second one. I'm like, oh, that's the same person. They're like, we thought so too. Do you know who that person is? I'm like, yeah, that's his girlfriend. I've talked to her before myself.
She's here right now. You want to talk to her?
Right. She's here right now. But, and then that dude, he hit me. He didn't hit me real bad. I mean, his debt rolled up to me for about 25 G's, right, that I had to cover because he wasn't going to pay it, obviously. And then shortly after that, like He doesn't have a license. This dude's not in the business anymore. He's washed up. He's gone. He's running another scam somewhere, probably in solar or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, this is what I don't want to do. I don't want to scare people on this call and
Of
them think
course.
and them think that you're going to lose all your renewals. You're not. Okay. So let me tell you the steps. Go figure out how to get approved through CMS. There's a little bit of red tape that you have to do. Work through it. Get sponsored by the carrier. Ask your IMO who in their compliance department can you talk to. They want to help you get compliant because they don't want you to lose your renewals. So if you ask to go be compliant, they're going to help you. They're not going to go, we don't want you to become compliant, right? Go get approved by CMS first to be able to do these things. Get sponsored by a carrier. Show them what you're currently doing. Fix it and move on with your life.
That's definitely the recipe to get compliant.
It's not that tough. It's a little annoying when you keep putting something back into the carrier or you keep putting something back into CMS and they kick it back and say this one word you can't say, or you're overusing red, white, and blue because that represents Medicare, right? Things like that. There's a document or PDF, and I might be able to share it with you. That's 29 pages of do's and don'ts of CMS, and I've studied it. I call it the CMS Bible. But what more importantly is it tells you what you cannot say, but it also tells you things that you might be able to say. And just know that there are gray areas that CMS is like, you know what, that's good with me. You know what I mean? They're not looking to just say no to every single thing. They want to get things approved. And so when you realize that and you actually work with them, you can get compliant a lot quicker than you realize.
Interesting. I know most agents don't go to the extent to get their stuff CMS approved. I currently don't. It's not that I'm trying to hide anything. I feel like I have a good enough interpretation of CMS's guidelines that I'm like, all right, this ad's not going to get me in trouble. This ad's not going to get me. I'm not saying free stuff or or abusing the word Medicare. I mean, I am using the word Medicare right now as long as I can, but come 2024, that's going to be off the table, it sounds like. Right. So I'll take advantage of being able to use that word where I can. But just out of curiosity, kind of an opinion, because you talked about some of the things that we couldn't say and false advertising, and some of those items seem to be some of the things that were being said in commercials that a lot of agents complain about.
1,000%. I don't know how those commercials get through. Actually, I don't know what laws they're playing in or who they're paying off in Congress.
Right.
But they're still going through.
Yeah. They're going through, but I think didn't the new language that they wrote for the new rule for 2024 say they were really gonna they're not taking anybody's commercials now. Like if you want to run a commercial, they're saying no, we're not approving commercials. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is.
Anybody that's already got some approved can run them, but we're not approving new commercials.
Correct. And by this time next year, a lot of those people that are running approved commercials, because the other thing with CMS is you have to get it approved every single year.
Sure.
You have to get something approved every single year. So they might be approved right now and they might be running right now, but this time next year, a lot of those commercials are going to be, they're not going to be there. What that means for you guys that are on this call that are watching is if you take the steps now to go get compliant and a lot of those people stop watching those commercials and you're the one that's doing it right, when a lot of people are getting caught and they're not running ads and you're one of the only people who are actually doing it and you're doing it right, your response rate will go up because you're going to be one of the only ones. Right now, you're in a sea of people and it's which one's going to make the most sense to that person at that day. That's what marketing is. I can show the exact same ad 1,000 times, but all of a sudden, there's probably an exit sign inside your office, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably red.
Mm-hmm.
And if you walk past it, it's there. You know it's there, but you just walk past it every single day. But all of a sudden, if I change it from red to blue, it would be the only thing that you notice, right? So I could run the same ad over and over and over, but then on the next one, I run it a blue background instead of a red. It's gonna show to the same people, but a lot more people are going to respond because it's something a little bit different. Yep. Right now, again, you're in a sea of people who are all running very similar ads, and that's why people are mad about seeing all these ads. But when less people are running ads because CMS is going to start cracking down on a lot of stuff, if you're the only one that's compliant, you're going to be one of the few instead of one of many.
One of the many,
And
right?
when you're
Being a
one of
blue ocean,
few,
so to speak.
when you're one of few, your response rate's actually going to go up, lowering your lead costs. So being compliant actually might help your lead cost a year from now.
Well said. I know we've been talking a lot about some of the new stuff that we think is coming, or that I shouldn't say think that's coming. I mean, even though it's a proposed rule, most of the stuff in that is going to get approved. Like maybe maybe they don't bring back the 48-hour SOA rule, but as far as all the other stuff in regards to marketing, et cetera, and print stuff, that's all coming. I agree with
Sure.
that. But the stuff they passed last year, right? The recording requirements, the disclaimers, right, that had to be and everything. On outside of recording calls, is there anything of those items that you feel like is a red thumb or things that agents aren't doing properly right now and need to
They're
pay
not.
attention to?
They're not doing disclaimers.
Right? Are you talking
None
about
of
verbally or just on the ads themselves? Or
on the ads themselves. On the ads themselves. They're are they doing it verbally? I'd say a lot of people are better safe than sorry, and they're doing it verbally. One thing I'll say about the recordings is people don't realize how tough it is to actually keep things recorded for 10 years. People trust that their CRM is recording things. People, I thought our CRM was recording everything. It wasn't. And this was luckily I fixed this, but I basically anytime that there's a conversation that goes over 30 seconds long, which is about before they just hang up and say whatever.
sure.
I have it recorded in the CRM. I have it record into Twilio. I have it record into something called Retriever. And then I also send another webhook and send it to Amazon Web Services where we pay a little bit extra money. And so I record it 4 different times, categorize it, and then I also send it to like a Google Drive as well that sends. So it's like I really wanted to make sure that if the recording thing was as big as a deal as we thought it was going to be, that we were prepared.
Yeah.
I don't think people are actually taking it seriously because they haven't been told to give the recordings yet.
Right.
So when you start having that happen to you and you realize that you just been recording and it just goes, some of these places, some of these CRMs that people are using are only recording things for 30 days.
Right.
And you're going to get
Mine's only good for 6 months, so I have to move it
got to
out
move it
of
quick.
there. I have to have a regular workflow that moves it out of that place and puts it somewhere where I know it's not going anywhere.
You got
Made
it.
me wonder if buying stock in cloud-based storage is probably a smart move right now, considering how many people are having to record calls and store them somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And then categorizing those calls appropriately. Storing it. So we do it every single day.
explain
So,
categorize. Like, what do you mean? I mean, I understand what
like,
categorizing means, but like, what kind of categories would you put phone calls into?
so if I just start doing it line by line and I have an Excel spreadsheet of every call that happened through IFG CRM, I'd have 50,000 calls a
Yeah,
day.
it's
It would
pretty ridiculous. Like, even
would
at
be
my
like
little agency.
right. It's pretty ridiculous. And these are just, people double tapping or triple tapping people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Those are considered calls. So then it's categorizing it by day. And then we download it every single day. So then every day we have one, and then we do it by week. Week 1 of January of 2023.
Okay. So you're
Week 2
doing
just
them in
in folders.
synchronology, basically, right?
Yeah, basically in folders. Because if not, I could just have this one big long thing, and it's like, where the heck am I going to find it? At least if it says, "Hey, this person that you enrolled on this day," you can go find. You can go, "Oh, it was in January. It was on this week on this day."
Yeah, I
And
haven't
that's
gotten past month and year,
correct.
right? So I
Yeah,
have a 2022 folder for everything that started in October and beyond, and then I have October, November, December, but I
yeah.
haven't gotten it down to week, like week 1, week 2. That's pretty smart. That would narrow it down, make it a little quicker.
It's one of those small things, and then on the naming convention of your recording, like I name I have it pull the client name and the client number in the file name. So
Okay.
I can just control F, and when it comes from the compliance department, it says here's the client's number. I control F and find that really
Yep.
quickly.
Yeah.
So
Mine are all stored by, they're not on the client name on them, just phone number.
well, you're further than most people, let me tell you.
Right.
Right now, it's just a bunch of recordings, and imagine that you called 50 people and you got a complaint, and you finally found the right place, but you have to listen to 50 phone calls and figuring out which one. That'll take you forever.
Yeah.
So just organizing rather than categorizing. Organizing is a better word.
Agreed 100%. Well, man, this has been a great call. Any other hot items that you feel about compliance? Anything people really need to pay attention to? Maybe even just recapping some of the changes that are coming in 2024. Anything you feel like we might have overlooked or left out?
You know, I don't think so. You know, you're well read on most things that are going on in the industry, which is refreshing because a lot of people aren't. They hear what they see on Facebook, and they only read the title, and now they're experts on that said subject.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, you were reading, it was like here's the title, the head grabber, right? But then what you did is there's actual information inside there where you actually read the stats. Those are the important part.
Sure.
So people read one thing from CMS, or one person reads it and posts it on Facebook, and the people go, all recordings have to be done on CMS, and they're like, I know everything about CMS now. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah. Headline junkies. We become headline junkies,
You
right?
got it.
Over the last several years, as the internet, social media continues to shrink a lot of people's attention span. We're like, oh, we saw the headline, we know the whole story.
Exactly. I would say don't be a headline junkie. Dive right into CMS. Start to learn that stuff. Get compliant now, and so that you don't have to worry anymore. I just sleep better at night knowing that you're compliant. That's
Yeah,
all I
yeah,
can say. It's like you don't want to have something too many things get found and you lose all the renewals that you've been working so hard for.
yeah.
It's just
Everything
not
you've worked
it's
so
just
hard
not worth
for,
it.
man. You lose your longevity, the possible legacy, the ability to provide for your family, maybe even end up in jail. I don't know. Well,
And
all
I
right.
know, and I saw the comment from Joe, so I want to make sure I go ahead and dab for him because he's going to say dab it on live. So I want to make sure I get that in there for
However
you,
that
Joe.
works, dab it or ain't live.
That's it, baby. Well,
All right,
thank you
brother.
so much, Tony, for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming. This has been a pleasure. So where can people find you if they want to check you out, talk to you, pick your brain?
The next event that I'm going to be at is going to be Medicare Con in
Yeah,
Vegas.
I will
You're
see
going to
you
be there.
there. I'll be there.
I know. I know. Are you playing poker or what are you playing? Blackjack? I see you. I see you with a lot
I
of
usually
chips all
play
the time.
poker here locally.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I see all the chips. I'm a big fan of Tony Merwin when he's playing.
I'll probably
But
be
I'll
playing
be
blackjack when we're in Vegas for Medicare Con. But
Me too. We'll grab a seat together.
all
We'll have
right,
some fun. But that's the next one I'll be at. But I'm easy to find on Facebook. I post all the time. Reach out to me. Any questions that you have, I'm happy to help. Um, I'm pretty much an open book.
beautiful. Well, man, thank you again for tuning in or for joining us. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been another great Tuesday training. We're here every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Come back and see us next time. I don't have our next guest in my front of me. I think it's Sandra Gebhardt, though, but I know she's coming up soon. Nonetheless, awesome day. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time for Tuesday training.
See you guys.